"We won't waste a cent on her." Dad's voice cracked across the dining hall like a whip, his words sharp enough to slice through the air. My uncles and aunts froze, forks hovering above their plates, eyes darting to me. Mom didn't stop. There. She leaned back in her chair with a smug grin and added, "Her husband can pay, if he exists." The table erupted in awkward laughter, the kind that wasn't really laughter at all, more like nervous clapping at a cruel performance. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I sat there, hands folded in my lap, my nails digging into my palms, so hard I nearly broke skin. My cousin Amy whispered, loud enough for the others to hear, "Does she even have one? Maybe she made him up." A round of chuckles followed. I lifted my chin, refusing to let my face betray the heat crawling up my neck. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. Instead, I gave them the smallest smile, calm and deliberate. That smile silenced them for a moment, because deep down, they couldn't understand why someone humiliated wouldn't defend herself. Dad sneered, mistaking my silence for defeat. "Good," he muttered, clinking his glass. "At least she won't drag us into her mess anymore." But inside me, the silence wasn't defeat. It was fire. That night, I lay awake replaying every sneer, every chuckle, every dismissive glance. I thought about all the years I'd swallowed their mockery, all the times I'd been their easy target because I wasn't loud, because I didn't boast about what I had. They thought my quiet meant I had nothing. Morning came too quickly. Sunlight, streaking across the curtains, and the house was still buzzing with relatives who'd stayed the night after the so-called celebration. My father's voice carried down the hall, bragging about how he saved money canceling the useless banquet. My mother's laughter followed, sharp and satisfied. And then, 3 sharp honks cut through the chatter outside. The relatives shuffled toward the windows, confusion painting their faces. A black car, sleek, polished, the kind they'd never dream of renting, rolled up the driveway. The chauffeur, in a crisp suit, stepped out with precision, his posture commanding attention. Gasps rippled through the living room. "Who is that?" one uncle asked. The chauffeur didn't answer them. He walked straight past the gawking crowd and into the house, shoes clicking against the marble floor. Without hesitation, he approached my grandfather, who was sitting quietly in the corner with his cane. Respectfully, he bowed his head slightly and extended a cream-colored envelope with a golden seal. "Mr. Carter," the chauffeur said smoothly, "this is for you. Personally signed by Mr. Reynolds." The room went dead silent. Grandpa adjusted his glasses, his weathered hands trembling slightly as he broke the seal. He pulled out a thick invitation embossed with elegant lettering. His eyes scanned the words, and then he froze. His breath caught. Slowly, he looked up at me, his voice cracking with disbelief as he whispered, "This is from your husband?" The room erupted. My mother's smirk collapsed. My father shot up from his chair, his face drained of color. My cousins swarmed like vultures, desperate to see what was inside the envelope. I stood, calm and composed, my heart hammering in my chest but my face unreadable. I looked directly at my parents, their mocking words from last night still echoing in my ears. "Yes," I said softly, but firmly. "From my husband." And in that moment, I saw something I'd never seen before in their eyes: fear. The air felt heavy, as if the house itself had stopped breathing. Grandpa held the embossed invitation in his frail hands, his lips moving silently as he reread the words. Every eye in the room was fixed on him, but no one dared speak first. Finally, his voice broke the silence, measured, serious, and trembling. "With authority. This is no ordinary banquet invitation," he said, looking at the golden lettering again. It's from the Reynolds estate, signed by your husband, Alexandra. The weight of his words crushed the smugness out of the room. My mother's smile faltered, her hand frozen around the glass of juice she hadn't lifted yet. Dad cleared, his throat trying to disguise his sudden unease. Reynolds? He scoffed, though his voice cracked. There are plenty of Reynolds out there. Could be anyone. But Grandpa shook his head firmly. No, not just anyone. The Reynolds family is one of the most influential in the state. Old money. Old power. If this is true. His eyes moved to me with a sharpness I wasn't used to. Then you've all made a terrible mistake. Murmurs broke out like fire spreading in dry grass. My cousins whispered furiously among themselves. Aunt Linda fanned herself as though the room had turned sweltering, and my uncle muttered, Impossible. She couldn't have. I rose slowly, letting my chair scrape against the marble floor, the sound deliberate and sharp. My heart pounded, but my face remained composed, unreadable. You wanted proof? I said, voice steady. There it is. Mom's voice cracked, the superiority gone, replaced with a frantic edge. Stop pretending, Alexandra. Some printed card with a fancy seal doesn't mean anything. Anyone could have made that. She turned toward Grandpa, her tone sharpening. Dad, don't fall for this. The chauffeur, still standing near the doorway with perfect posture, raised an eyebrow. Without a word, he pulled out his phone, tapped a number, and put it on speaker. A crisp male voice answered almost instantly. Mr. Reynolds's office, the voice said. The chauffeur spoke calmly, every syllable clear. This is Daniel, confirming the delivery of the invitation to Miss Alexandra Carter's family. There was a pause, then the voice replied, Confirmed. Mr. Reynolds personally requested it be delivered this morning. He'll see you all at the estate this evening. The call ended. The silence that followed was deafening. Dad staggered back as if someone had punched him. His complexion had gone pale, his arrogance dissolving into panic. Estate? This evening? His voice was barely a whisper. Amy, the cousin who mocked me the loudest, swallowed hard, her face drained of color. Wait, are we supposed to go there? My eyes locked with hers, calm but cutting. You weren't invited. My husband signed it. For me. And for Grandpa. That sent a shockwave through the room. Grandpa's brows furrowed, his cane tapping against the floor as he looked at me intently. Why only me? He asked. I walked closer to him, lowering my voice so that it carried weight, not volume. Because you've always been the only one who never mocked me when the others did. He respects loyalty. Grandpa's lips tightened, pride flickering in his weary eyes. Around us, the family's whispers grew frantic, like buzzing flies circling a wound. Mom suddenly snapped, slamming her glass down so hard the table rattled. Enough of this nonsense. If this man of yours had real power, why didn't you flaunt it sooner? Why hide him? Her words stung, but not the way she intended. I turned to her, my expression calm but laced with steel. Because unlike you, Mother, I don't measure my worth by parading wealth. I wanted a family who loved me for who I was, not what I had. But I see now. You were never that family. The truth hit harder than a slap. Her face reddened, and Dad sputtered like a man drowning. You think you can talk to us this way just because some man signed a piece of paper? No, I said, coldly, my eyes drilling into his. I can talk this way because you canceled my banquet and humiliated me in front of everyone. You mocked me. You told people I didn't matter. But now, the very man you dismissed as imaginary has given you more reason to fear him than you'll admit. The chauffeur finally spoke again, his tone professional but carrying an edge that left no room for debate. Miss Alexandra, the car is waiting. Mr. Reynolds instructed me to bring you and Mr. Carter only. His eyes swept the room, unbothered. By the desperate, wide-eyed stares of the others, Mom lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. Her nails dug into my skin as her voice trembled, no longer mocking but desperate. "Alexandra, please, you can't shut us out. We're family." I slowly pulled my wrist free, looking her dead in the eye. "Family doesn't laugh while tearing you apart. Family doesn't cancel your joy just to save face. Whatever you were, you lost that title the moment you chose pride over me." Grandpa rose with surprising strength, his cane thudding against the marble. "She's right," he declared. His voice carried the weight of decades of authority, silencing the room. "And if what we're seeing is true, then she's the only one among you worth standing beside." Dad tried one last time, his voice cracking under the pressure. "You'll regret this. Men like that, like Reynolds, they don't stay. They'll use you and leave." I looked at him, steady and unflinching. "Maybe. But unlike you, at least he doesn't hide his cruelty behind the word father." The chauffeur gestured toward the door. "Shall we, Miss Alexandra?" I nodded, turning toward the exit. My heels clicked against the floor, each step echoing through the hall like a final judgment. Grandpa followed beside me, his head held higher than I'd seen in years. And behind, us. Mom's voice finally broke, trembling with fear. "What if she's telling the truth? What if he really is?" She didn't finish. She didn't need to. The silence that followed was answer enough. Because deep down, they all knew this wasn't a game. This was just the beginning. The drive to the Reynolds estate was silent, except for the hum of the engine. Grandpa sat beside me in the back seat, his weathered hands clutching the invitation like it was a lifeline. His eyes flicked to me every few minutes, filled with questions. He hadn't asked yet. Finally, as the city skyline faded into sprawling countryside, he spoke. "Why didn't you tell me sooner, Alexandra?" His voice wasn't angry. It was heavy, like a man carrying years of regret. I stared out the tinted window, my reflection pale against the glass. "Because I wanted someone to believe in me, without needing proof," I whispered. "And you did. That's why you're here with me now." He nodded slowly, his lips tightening. For the first time, I saw pride instead of pity in his eyes. The car turned down a long private drive lined with lanterns, leading to a mansion that looked more like a palace. Its white stone glowed against the early evening sky, fountains spraying, water high into the air, manicured gardens stretching as far as I could see. Grandpa's cane tapped nervously against the leather seat. When the chauffeur opened the door, a line of staff in black uniforms stood waiting. They bowed slightly as I stepped out. My stomach twisted, but I stood tall. "Mrs. Reynolds," one of them greeted respectfully. The words rippled through Grandpa like thunder. He looked at me, eyes wide. "So it's true," he whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Inside, the grand hall gleamed with chandeliers that sparkled like 1,000 stars. Marble floors reflected our steps as if we were walking on water. Every detail whispered wealth, but none of it mattered to me more than the man standing at the far end of the hall. Ethan Reynolds. My husband. He wasn't in a tuxedo, but in a tailored dark suit, crisp and commanding. His presence filled the room before his words ever did. His jaw tightened as his eyes landed on me, softening in a way no one else ever got to see. "You're here," he said simply, his voice steady but warm. I nodded, my throat tight. For a moment, the world fell away. The sneers, the humiliation, the laughter. None of it mattered in his gaze. Grandpa leaned heavily on his cane, whispering, "You married him?" His disbelief wasn't contempt, it was awe. Ethan crossed the hall in long strides, his hand brushing mine, grounding me. "Yes," he said firmly, answering for me, "and I intend to make sure no one ever questions her worth again." Before I could respond, one of the staff approached with a phone in hand, whispering urgently. Ethan listened, his expression darkening. He turned to me, his jaw sharp. "They're outside," he said. My chest tightened. "Who?" He glanced toward the doors, where voices echoed faintly even through the thick walls. "Your parents, and the rest of them." Grandpa's head whipped toward me, disbelief flooding his features. "They followed us?" Ethan's lips curled into something between a smirk and a promise. "They won't get far without an invitation." We stepped toward the massive glass doors, and there they were. My parents, my aunts, my cousins, all standing at the gates, shouting, waving their arms. Desperation painted their faces, so different from the smug superiority they wore the night before. Security held them back, professional but unmoving. Their words carried faintly on the wind. "We're family. Let us in." I froze, my breath catching in my throat. Part of me wanted to turn away. Part of me wanted them to feel every ounce of what they'd put me through. But Ethan leaned down, his voice low enough that only I could hear. "You decide. Do they stay out there, or do they come in?" My fingers trembled at my sides. For the first time in my life, the power was in my hands, not theirs. Grandpa looked at me, his eyes steady. "Whatever you choose, Alexandra. Sure, it's for you, not them." I stared through the glass at the family who had mocked me, canceled my banquet, laughed at my silence, and now, stripped of their arrogance, they were begging for a place at the very table they'd once denied me. The decision would define everything, and I knew, when I opened my mouth, they would never forget what I chose. The shouting outside grew louder, echoing through the estate gates like the cries of beggars at a palace door. My mother's voice pierced through, frantic and desperate. "Alexandra, we're your family. Don't do this." For years, those words, "we're your family," had been twisted ropes they used to bind me, to silence me, to remind me of my place beneath them. But now, standing behind reinforced glass, with Ethan's hand resting protectively at the small of my back, those same words sounded hollow. Ethan leaned closer, his voice a low current of calm power. "Say the word, and they're gone." Chest rose and fell, the weight of choice pressing down. Grandpa, steady on his cane, watched me with unblinking eyes. He didn't interfere. He didn't plead. He knew this wasn't his decision to make. It was mine. I stepped forward, heels clicking against the marble until I stood at the threshold. The guards opened the doors just wide enough for my voice to carry out. My parents' faces snapped. Toward me, relief flooding them as if they truly believed I would save them from humiliation. I let the silence stretch, my eyes sweeping across every familiar face. My mother, trembling but still trying to stand tall. My father, jaw clenched in defiance, masking fear. My cousins, wide-eyed and whispering among themselves. Finally, I spoke. My voice was steady, cold, but not raised. "Last night, you canceled my banquet. You mocked me. You laughed when I was silenced. And now you stand here, begging for entry into the very life you once dismissed." Dad's face twitched. "We didn't mean it like that. You know how families joke." I cut him off, sharp and unwavering. "That wasn't a joke. That was cruelty. And you enjoyed every second of it." Mom's mask cracked, her voice breaking as tears welled. "Please, Alexandra, don't shut us out. We made a mistake. But we're still your parents." The word parents stabbed deep, but I didn't flinch. Parents protect their children. Parents don't strip them of dignity in front of a room full of relatives. You stopped being my parents the moment you decided my worth was a burden. Gasps rippled through my cousins, but no one dared defend them. Grandpa's voice rang out, behind me, firm and steady. "She owes you nothing." Ethan stepped forward, his presence towering, his tone razor-sharp. This estate welcomes loyalty, not mockery. Respect, not greed. Alexandra has the right to decide whether you step foot inside. I turned slightly, meeting Ethan's eyes. He didn't pressure me. He simply waited. And then, it all crystallized. I remembered the smirk on my mom's face, the way Dad raised his glass when he cut my banquet as if he'd won some cruel game. I remembered Amy's sneer, the whispers, the laughter. They had reveled in my humiliation. Now it was their turn to feel it. I straightened my shoulders, my words slicing through the air. Guards, close the gates. The command hung heavy. My family's expressions shattered. Mom lurched forward, nearly falling to her knees. Dad's face twisted in fury, shouting something that dissolved into nothing as the heavy gates clanged shut in their faces. The sound was final. Irreversible. Behind me, Grandpa exhaled, a mixture of pride and sorrow in his eyes. You've done what they forced you to do. They made their bed, and now they're lying in it. I turned to him, my voice softening for the first time. I didn't want revenge. I wanted respect. But sometimes, the only way to earn it is to stop giving people the chance to break you. Ethan took my hand, squeezing it gently. His voice carried the final judgment. Tonight, Alexandra is no longer the girl they mocked. She is my wife, and she will never be silenced again. As the doors closed behind us, sealing the noise outside, I felt a strange calm settle in my chest. For the first time in years, I wasn't the quiet one at the table, the shadow in the corner. I was the one in control, and this time, they would never forget it. The chandeliers shimmered above the grand ballroom, crystal light spilling across polished marble floors and the echo of clinking glasses. My pulse quickened the moment my husband, Ethan, leaned toward me. His voice cut sharp against the laughter around us. "Darcy," he said, low enough for only me to hear. "How's the car I left in the garage?" My smile faltered. I stared at him, confused. "What car?" Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from. Which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us. What would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. The air snapped like a whip. His expression hardened instantly. His blue eyes, usually calm, turned to steel. The music, the chatter, the wine glasses, all of it blurred as he shifted his gaze past me and locked on my older brother Ryan, who stood across the hall, basking in attention with that smug grin. Of his Ethan's jaw tightened. His voice, loud now, cut through the gala like a blade. "Hand over the keys." The room fell silent. Dozens of heads turned, forks froze halfway to mouths. Ryan's smirk twitched, but he tried to play it off, raising his glass. "I don't know what you're talking about, Ethan." "Don't," Ethan snapped, his tone sharp enough to slice the air. He stepped forward, shoulders squared, the entire gala watching as if a stage play had suddenly erupted before them. Darcy didn't even know about the car. That tells me everything I need. Where are the keys? My chest tightened as I glanced between them, heat rushing to my face. "Ethan, what's going on?" I whispered, but his hand brushed mine briefly. Steady, grounding. His eyes never left my brother. Ryan chuckled, though the sound cracked. "Look, if this is about that car." "That car?" Ethan's voice thundered now, echoing off the ballroom walls. "The one I bought for my wife as a gift? The one you decided to help yourself to?" Gasps rippled through the family crowd. My mother's wine glass clinked against the table. My father shifted uncomfortably, his lips pressed in a hard line. Nobody spoke. Ryan set down his drink, finally showing a sliver of nerves. "It was just sitting there," he muttered. "No one told me I couldn't." "You took it without asking," Ethan cut him off coldly. "That's called theft." A heavy silence dropped. The word theft echoed like a slap across the room. My stomach churned with humiliation, anger and confusion all at once. My own brother, stealing from us. And here it was, unraveling in front of every relative, every so-called friend of the family. Ryan straightened, trying to puff his chest. This is ridiculous. We're family. Families share. Ethan laughed once, sharp and humorless. You didn't share, Ryan. You stole. And you did it behind your sister's back, hoping she'd look stupid when I asked her. That's not family. That's betrayal. I froze. The word hit me harder than I expected. Betrayal. I'd felt it before, in whispered gossip about me, in the way relatives dismissed me as the quiet one who never stood up for herself. But hearing it declared out loud, with Ethan backing me in front of everyone. My heart pounded in my ears. Ryan's face flushed red, his voice cracking as he tried to save face. You're overreacting. It's just a damn car. Ethan leaned, closer, his voice like ice. No, Ryan. It's about respect, and tonight you've shown you have none. The crowd whispered, shifting in their seats. I caught sight of my aunt covering her mouth, my cousins leaning in eagerly, hungry for drama. My mother hissed under her breath. Ethan, please, this isn't the time. It's exactly the time, Ethan shot back. His hand brushed mine again, but this time it wasn't just grounding. It was protective, as if he wanted me to know. I will not let them humiliate you again. My lips trembled as I looked at my brother. I could feel every eye in the room pressing down on me, waiting for me to either defend him or stay silent. For the first time in years, I felt something sharp rising in my chest. Not fear, not shame, but fire. Ryan, I said, my voice carrying, farther than I thought possible. You didn't just take a car. You tried to make me look like a fool. His eyes darted to me, his jaw tightening. You wanted me to stand here, embarrassed in front of everyone. You wanted them to laugh at me. My throat burned, but my voice grew stronger. But the only one who looks pathetic right now is you. The silence that followed was louder than the music had ever been. Ethan's hand tightened around. Mine and Ryan's face collapsed into something bitter, ugly, cornered. And for the first time, I didn't look away. The ballroom buzzed like a hive after my words landed. My brother's face turned scarlet, but he forced a hollow laugh. Pathetic? Really, Darcy? You're standing there letting him, your husband, turn you against your own blood. That's pathetic. My pulse roared in my ears. For years, Ryan had controlled the room with sarcasm and arrogance. But tonight, Ethan wasn't backing down, and neither was I. Ethan's voice was steady, but sharp enough to slice glass. You've embarrassed your sister for the last time. Hand over the keys, Ryan, now. Ryan shoved his hand into his pocket, jaw grinding. He dangled the sleek black fob in the air, smirking. You want it? Fine. Here. He tossed it, aiming carelessly toward Ethan. But the keys clattered on the marble floor between them, loud as gunfire. The crowd gasped. I flinched at the sound, the metallic ring echoing in my chest. Ethan didn't flinch. He stepped forward, picked them up with measured calm, and slipped them into my hand. The gesture was small but powerful. Ethan looked me straight in the eye, his voice warm yet firm. This was always yours. My throat tightened, tears threatening. But before I could speak, Ryan barked out a laugh that scraped like sandpaper. You're both ridiculous. It's a car. Do you know how stupid this looks? Do you know how many people here think you're overreacting? Ethan's gaze swept the room, catching eyes that quickly darted away. If defending my wife's dignity makes me look ridiculous, he said, then maybe the problem isn't us. It's everyone sitting here watching her get disrespected. The words cracked the air open. Murmurs rippled across the tables. My father shifted uncomfortably. My mother shot Ryan a warning look, but no one moved to defend him. For once, Ryan was alone. I took a shaky breath, my voice steadier than I expected. You always do this, Ryan. You take what isn't yours, then laugh when people call you out. You've been doing it since we were kids. And every time, the family excuses it. That's just Ryan being Ryan. I locked eyes with him, letting every ounce of anger burn through. Not tonight. Tonight, everyone sees you for what you are. The heat spread across my chest. Not shame anymore, but something stronger. Liberation. Ryan's smirk faltered, but he jabbed a finger toward me. Careful, little sister. Don't forget who always bails you out when you need help. You think Ethan will always be around? You think he won't get tired of your silence, your weakness? Ethan's hand slammed down on the nearest table, rattling. Silverware. The room froze again. Enough. His voice dropped to a growl. You don't get to insult my wife, not here, not ever again. My mother's sharp voice broke in. Ethan, please stop. This is a family matter. No. Ethan shot back, eyes blazing. This is a respect matter, and it ends tonight. I felt the room tilt, like years of silent battles finally teetering over the edge. My father cleared his throat, his face pale. Ryan, he muttered. Apologize to your sister. The words hung heavy in the air. For a moment, even I doubted what I'd heard. My father, who never defended me, who always smoothed things over for Ryan, was forcing him to apologize. Ryan's jaw clenched. You're siding with her? His laugh was sharp, but his voice cracked. This is insane. Apologize, my father repeated, firmer this time. Ryan's eyes darted from my father, to me, to Ethan, the weight of the crowd pressing down. His arrogance wilted just slightly. His lips curled, but the words came out bitter and forced. I'm sorry. The apology felt hollow, like spit on the floor. But still, hearing it sent a shock through me. I had waited my entire life to hear Ryan forced into humility. Ethan's hand pressed against the small of my back, grounding me. You don't have to accept it, he whispered, his breath warm against my ear. I turned to Ryan, my voice firm. You're not sorry, and I don't need your apology. What I need is for you to understand that you can't walk over me anymore. Not with Ethan here. Not ever again. A wave of murmurs surged around us, louder now, like the crowd couldn't hold back anymore. I caught sight of my cousin whispering with wide eyes, my aunt shaking her head. My humiliation had transformed into something else. Their unease. Their realization that maybe I wasn't the weak one after all. Ryan's face twisted, but he didn't speak. For once, he had no comeback. The music started again, softer now, the band awkwardly filling the silence. But the tension lingered, heavy and sharp. Ethan leaned close to me, his hand finding mine, his voice low so only I could hear. This is just the beginning, Darcy. They've been underestimating you for too long. Let's show them who you really are. And for the first time, in years I believed him. The gala carried on, but the air was poisoned. Every laugh was strained, every smile brittle. The moment Ryan had been cornered, the entire night shifted. People weren't whispering about me anymore. They were whispering about him. I could feel the eyes following us, some pitying, most stunned. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one shrinking under their stares. Ryan was. He leaned against the bar now, gripping his glass too tightly, forcing out loud jokes to anyone who'd listen, but no one laughed. The center of attention he'd always craved had curdled into isolation. Ethan slipped his arm around my waist, protective but proud. His voice was low, only for me. Look at them, Darcy. They finally see you. Not the quiet shadow they could push around. They see the woman who stood up and said enough. My chest burned, but not with shame this time. With something fiercer. I've never spoken to him like that before. I admitted. You didn't just speak, Ethan murmured. You owned the room. The words rattled inside me like a bell. For years, I had let Ryan's voice be louder, let my parents excuse him, let myself blend into the background. But tonight, under crystal chandeliers and judgmental eyes, something inside me snapped awake. Across the room, my aunt approached Ryan, her voice sharp enough for me to catch pieces. You humiliated yourself. Your sister's stronger than you think. You should have known better. Ryan's shoulders stiffened, his face darkening. His gaze flicked toward me, sharp, furious. My stomach tightened. That look wasn't embarrassment anymore. It was promise. Darcy. My mother's voice cut in, brittle but composed. She smoothed her gown, trying to hold dignity like a mask. Couldn't this have been handled quietly? You've stirred up so much drama, Ethan answered before I could. Drama happens when people cover up disrespect. Darcy didn't stir anything. Ryan did. She just refused to play along. My mother's lips pinched. You don't understand family dynamics. I understand respect, Ethan snapped. Calm but razor-edged. And I'll never apologize for demanding it for my wife. The word wife hit heavy in the air. I stood taller beside him, even as my mother turned away, muttering under her breath. For the first time, I didn't scramble to smooth things over. The band played louder, trying to distract from the storm, but the whispers wouldn't stop. Ryan's friends avoided his eyes. My father avoided mine. And for once, I didn't care. I excused myself to the balcony, needing air. The night wind was cool against my flushed skin, carrying the muffled music from inside. The city lights stretched wide and endless, like possibility. Ethan followed, his hand brushing mine. You were incredible back there, he said. My voice cracked. I don't feel incredible. I feel angry, like years of being dismissed just came crashing down all at once. That's not anger, Ethan said softly. That's clarity. You finally see your worth. I turned to him, my chest tight. And what if they never respect me? What if Ryan finds a way to twist this and make me look small again? Ethan's jaw tightened. Then we make sure he doesn't get the chance. I've already set things in motion, Darcy. That car was just the beginning. There's more they don't know. My heart skipped. His tone was calm, but there was weight in it, something unspoken. I searched his eyes. What do you mean? Before he could answer, the balcony doors swung open. Ryan stepped out, his smirk forced, eyes glittering with venom. Well, well, he drawled, voice dripping with mockery. The happy couple. Out here celebrating your big moment? Ethan didn't move. His arm tightened around me. Go back. Inside? Ryan. Ryan laughed, but the sound was empty. You think this changes anything? You humiliate me in front of everyone. And what? Suddenly, Darcy's the hero? Please. She'll always be the quiet one, the forgotten one. And when you're done playing knight in shining armor, Ethan, she'll be right back where she belongs. In my shadow. The words burned hot under my skin, but for the first time I didn't shrink. I stepped forward, my voice sharp enough to cut. No, Ryan. You're the one in the shadows now. His smile faltered. I held his gaze, steady and unflinching. You've built your life on tearing me down, but tonight everyone saw the truth. You're not strong. You're desperate. And the more you try to step on me, the weaker you look. The silence stretched. Ryan's jaw worked, but no words came. Ethan's hand found mine again, his voice steady. You heard her. Go back inside. For once, Ryan obeyed. He turned, sharply storming back into the gala, his pride in tatters. I exhaled, my knees weak, but Ethan steadied me. That, he whispered, a faint smile touching his lips, was the sound of a woman who refuses to be invisible anymore. And for the first time, I believed it, but deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Ryan's look had promised it. He wasn't finished, and next time, the stakes would be even higher. The night dragged on, but Ryan's storm wasn't finished. I felt it in every sideways glare he threw across the ballroom, every muttered word that reached my ears. Ethan stayed close, calm but alert, his hand never far from mine. By the time the gala wound down, tension crackled thicker than the perfume in the air. Guests slipped away, whispering about the scene they'd witnessed. But as we headed toward the exit, Ryan stepped into our path, his jaw tight, his smile poisonous. "You think you've won tonight," he hissed, his voice low so only we could hear. "But this isn't over, Darcy. You'll regret making me look weak." I froze, my stomach twisting. For years, that kind of threat had shut me down, sent me running. But not tonight. Ethan moved forward, but I lifted my hand, stopping him. My voice came steady, clear. "No, Ryan. You're the one who'll regret it. Because tonight, everyone finally saw the truth. You don't scare me anymore." His eyes narrowed, but the words hit harder than any shove could. He stepped back, muttering something under his breath, then stalked away, his shoulders rigid with defeat. Outside, the night air wrapped around me, cool and freeing. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was leaving an event smaller than when I'd arrived. I felt taller, stronger. Ethan opened the car door for me, his expression softening as I slid inside. Once he joined me, his hand found mine. Again, firm and grounding. "You were flawless," he said quietly. "Do you know how proud I am of you?" Tears pricked my eyes, but they weren't from shame anymore. They were from relief, from release. "For once, Ethan," I whispered, "I didn't just survive him. I stood up to him." He squeezed my hand. "And you'll never have to do it alone again." As the driver pulled away, the gala lights faded behind us. My reflection in the window wasn't the timid woman I'd always seen. It was someone sharper, steadier, someone finally free. But the moment wasn't just about Ryan. It was about me. About finally choosing not to be the family's silent target anymore. About realizing that I had a voice worth hearing. The next morning, messages poured in from relatives. Some offered apologies, awkward and overdue. Others sent quiet admiration, saying they wished they'd had the courage to call Ryan out years ago. For once, I wasn't invisible. And when Ryan finally texted me, a single bitter line that read, "You'll regret this," I didn't shake. I didn't cry. I simply deleted it, because the truth was clear. The only person drowning in regret was him. Ethan watched me put my phone down and smiled knowingly. "You've changed, Darcy, and it suits you." I leaned into him, the weight lifting off my shoulders. "No," I said softly. "I didn't change. I just finally stopped letting them bury me." The city moved on outside the window, but inside, I felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. And for the first time in my life, I knew. This wasn't just the end of Ryan's control. It was the beginning of me.